But welcome. And who are you?
I'm Nathan Ayers.
Nathan Ayers. I thought it was Nathan.
Sometimes people call me Nate.
Okay.
It just depends on the person.
Do you have a middle name?
Vincent.
Really? Okay. Would not have picked Vincent. But have you ever gone by Vincent?
No.
Nobody in the family calls you Vincent.
No. My dad is. It's his dad's name, and he's a Vincent, but he goes by Earl.
That's his name, or he just goes by Earl?
Well, I think technically his name's Vincent Earl.
Oh.
And he goes by
Just Earl.
But he doesn't. I think he's always gone by Earl because his dad was Vince.
Okay.
So they didn't want to have two. They didn't want to call two people Vincent in the house.
Yeah. I think Earl is also Earl or Vincent. Either way, it's getting sidetracked. How'd you get started riding?
Well, this goes back to probably 1993.
Okay.
I think. A friend of mine from high school called me up one day and had said, "Hey, do you want to come over and ride bikes?" And he lived just maybe a mile away. And I said, he wanted to know if I wanted to go mountain biking. And I said,
Okay.
I don't own a mountain bike. I have a bike, but it's not a mountain bike, and I haven't ridden it in a couple of years because at the time I was probably 15.
Okay.
No driver's license. And he said, "Well, my parents have bikes. You can borrow them." And they were Trek mountain bikes, nothing fancy, like a Trek 830, 850, just like a entry level model.
Bike, yeah.
And I guess I got my parents to give me a ride over to his house because I didn't walk. And mountain biking consisted of riding bikes through cow pastures up and down hills and not really like mountain biking. And then he introduced me to this, it's in the Rapidan Wildlife Management Area in Madison County.
Okay.
And there's this fire road that goes up to this ridge called Blakey's Ridge.
Okay.
And then the fire road traverses Blakey's Ridge and goes up to a fire tower. And it used to be a popular group ride from the bike stop in Culpeper. And they would go up there usually every Sunday and ride in the mountains on fire roads before gravel was even a thing. Yeah. There's not a lot of single track up there, but that's what we started doing. And then probably a year later, I bought my own Trek 830. So I didn't have to keep borrowing his parents.
16 at this point.
Right.
Okay, cool. All right.
And I used my own money.
Okay.
And it was like $367 for the bike, which I thought was an outrageous amount at the time for a 16-year-old.
Still pricey, yeah.
And I started breaking parts on it pretty quickly, bending handlebars.
Really?
And so I started making upgrades, and then I upgraded the frame and transferred all the parts over and put a front shock on it and clipless pedals. And
you went in deep, yeah. This is still like you're 16, 17 now?
Yeah, this is like 16, 17 years old.
Okay.
So by the time I graduated high school, I had upgraded to a Trek 7000 frame, which is an aluminum frame. The 830 was a chromoly frame, steel. And I had a RockShox fork on the front. Okay. Shimano, the old SPD pedals that look like the old electric razors. Okay. Huge. And I had Magura Hydrostop hydraulic rim brakes.
I'm not even familiar with those.
I don't think a lot of people use them now. Okay. I think they still make brakes, but they're not as popular as other brands. But they were the first, as far as I know, they were the first hydraulic bike brake. Okay. And they were rim brakes because disc brakes didn't exist in the 90s. Yeah. Shocks barely existed in the 90s. And they didn't have a lot of travel.
Okay. Did you know some actually once you put the hydraulic brakes on, was it that much better? Did you notice?
Oh, it was a huge difference.
Really? Okay.
Because I was using cantilever brakes before. Well, I think I was maybe using V brakes. Okay. Because V brakes were came after cantilever brakes. Okay. And then V brakes were a huge improvement over canties, but the hydraulic brakes were a lot better. I think I upgraded to them because we were going up there and riding in the mountains and bombing down these fire roads in the mountains, and it's like it would take you 2 hours to ride to the top of this mountain and 20 minutes to come down.
Yeah.
And your hands were hurting
because
you're gripping the brakes and riding the brakes all the way down. Otherwise, you're going 35 miles an hour on a gravel road with very little suspension.
Seems dangerous a little bit.
Oh, there's quite a few crashes involved.
Okay. So it's just you and your friend, or like is it the group growing?
Yeah, well, it was me and Lee, the guy that invited me to come ride, and then he kind of backed off for whatever reason from riding, and then another friend of mine whose name was also Nathan. He was Nathan Jenkins.
Okay.
He started tagging along, and then he and I started riding every Sunday together, and Lee just kind of faded into the background. He still came out, but not didn't
ride as much. Yeah.
Right. But me and Nathan, we would go out and ride every Sunday at 1:00, and we'd go up in the mountains and ride every week.
Yeah.
And I wish I had like Strava back then just to see all the places we had been and gone, and we didn't have cell service. We just told our parents we're going to ride, and they didn't know where exactly we were. We were just teenagers. We weren't adults.
Different time then. Different time.
Yeah, no GPS, no cell phones. I mean, things could have ended badly.
Yeah. Just never found again. Yeah. When did you start using Strava?
It was probably
like when it first came out?
2009, 10. It was after I started riding again after my accident in 2008.
Okay. So you started off mountain biking, 15 with a friend. You were doing your upgrades, started riding with the other friend, the other Nathan, exploring your local areas, riding probably dangerously, in hilly areas. That's high school. You went to college.
Correct.
Did the bike go with you?
It did. I took my mountain bike to college, but I went to Averett University in Danville. Mm-hmm. And unbeknownst to me, there wasn't really anywhere to mountain bike in Danville. There is now, but there wasn't in 1996.
Okay.
So I rode my bike around campus some, but it wasn't really like... Yeah. So after my first year at Averett, 96 to 97, because I'd gone to community college for a year, 95 to 96, I sold my mountain bike and bought a road bike. Okay. Because there was no mountain biking in Danville. So then I was exclusively, because I was a poor college student, exclusively road biking. Mm-hmm. And I rode all over Danville. I rode into North Carolina. I joined this fraternity, Pi Kappa Phi. Okay. And it was the only fraternity at Averett, because Averett's a small school. But part of the draw was that they had this thing called the Journey of Hope. Okay. So the national fraternity did this Journey of Hope every year, which was a cross-country bike ride to raise awareness and money for handicapped children. So I thought, well, that's something I could really get behind. I'd like to do that. Yeah. So I joined Pi Kappa Phi partially because I was like, I want to do that because that seems cool. It's a sponsored, supported cross-country ride from San Francisco to D.C. Mm-hmm. So I started riding the road bike in 97, applied to the Journey of Hope in 98, got accepted to the team. They took about 60 fraternity brothers from Pi Kappa Phi. They only accepted Pi Caps from across the country. They didn't take people that weren't
part of the fraternity.
Right.
Really? Okay. All right.
And you had to raise $4,000 to go towards your sponsored donations. Yeah. It's just a general charity ride. Anything like Climb to Conquer Cancer that you have to.
Was that the individually had to raise the money?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So I didn't have too much trouble doing it. I told people what I was doing, and I got donations from all kinds of places. I got donations from Walmart and Target and car dealerships and funeral homes. And pretty much if I knocked on the door and asked them and told them what I was doing, they'd at least give me a check for $50.
Nice.
So it all added up, and I just would send in the checks to Push America was the name of the philanthropy that we were working towards.
Okay.
It's now called the Ability Experience.
Okay.
And they still do this trip. So you'd mail the checks in every couple weeks, and I'd send it certified because I didn't want to lose it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money in that envelope.
Yeah.
And they had to sign for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if everybody was doing that, but that's what I was doing.
Makes sense.
I flew out to San Francisco on June 8th, 1999, and we started riding around the 12th or 13th.
Okay.
But shortly after we started riding, and I'd ridden 1,700 miles in preparation for this, which at the time I thought was an enormous amount of mileage for...
Was that 1,700 over what time frame, though?
February to June.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't nothing, but it wasn't an incredible amount. But I felt like I was fairly well prepared.
But that's an unemployed version of you riding 1,700. Yeah. Anyway, keep going.
So I fly out, and within the first week, I started noticing anterior knee pain in my right knee.
Okay.
And it was not getting any better. It was progressively getting worse. I mean, I've been to physical therapy for it 5 or 6 times in the last 20 years. I've had an MRI on it. The diagnosis at the time in 1999, after I came home, was chondromalacia, which is basically a term for the roughening of the cartilage behind the kneecap.
Okay.
More detective work in the 20 years since. There's and not to get all like sciencey and anatomy, but there is a groove that your patella slides in on your into your femur.
Okay.
I believe it's called the Trochlear Groove.
Okay.
But it's got to stay in that groove.
Yeah.
And if it slides out the slightest bit, you have uneven wearing on the back of your like the cartilage on the back side of the kneecap. And there's cartilage on the end of the femur too.
Okay.
And when everything's working correctly, it's like ice on ice, wet ice on ice.
Yeah, it just slides.
Slides.
Yeah.
But if your muscles are too tight and you have imbalances, so say your lateral quad, which is like the outside of your leg, upper leg, is too tight, and it starts, or too strong, and it starts pulling that patella just a couple millimeters out of that groove, things don't feel so great.
Starts to rub. Okay.
So the best way to describe how it has felt for me is broken glass behind my kneecap. It's incredibly painful. Just on my ride today, I was keeping an eye on my power balance, and my left leg was doing 54% of the work, and my right leg was doing 46.
Really? Okay.
So it's something I got to keep working on. Usually if I stay on top of my stretches and foam rolling, and I can mitigate it for the most part and ride, but
it's still there.
It's still there, and it's just going to be something I got to work on the rest of my life. And the funny thing is, my left knee has never really given me any issues, so...
Is that a surgery fixable thing?
I don't think it's going to... Everything I've read about it is it doesn't help. Doesn't really do anything. Okay. So, like a meniscus tear, they can go in and fix. Yeah. But going in and smoothing out the cartilage on the back of the patella doesn't really make much difference. So... Okay. So anyway, I ended up riding off and on for about 4 weeks.
Is this
on the Journey of Hope.
Okay.
Made it from San Francisco to Phoenix, 500 miles in 4 weeks. But that was only maybe 50% of the time, because I would ride for a day, knee would start to hurt. Yeah. So then I would stop riding, and I wouldn't ride the next day. Okay. So I ultimately made the decision to fly home from Phoenix. Okay. Maybe should have stayed and been a crew member. Yeah. But there was some bullying involved.
About you not riding?
Yeah. So, when you combine a bunch of... I was definitely the poorest guy on the team. Okay. And probably had the nicest bike. Yeah. When you combine a bunch of rich college age kids that, and none of them had ridden anything. Like the next closest guy had ridden like 500 miles.
Okay.
And some of them hadn't even touched the bike at all.
They weren't ready.
I don't know what they thought they were going, and they went out drinking every night. And then they have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and ride the next day.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a miracle that any of them make it across the country. But, I think I just had like a bad group of guys because they divide the team into North and South.
Yeah.
And in the week before we split, I'd actually made a lot of friends with guys on the North team. But you don't know exactly what team you're just riding and you're talking, and the first thing out of your mouth isn't what team are you on.
Yeah.
And then you find out like a week later, those guys are going the north route through Colorado and Wyoming.
Different route. Okay.
And we're going south through the desert, Nevada and Arizona, New Mexico, Texas.
Hot.
So I wanted to go on the South team because the South team went through Virginia and Danville and Charlottesville and now it comes through Richmond because they've rerouted.
Okay.
But the North team would go through like Ohio, Pennsylvania, down through Maryland, and it finishes in D.C.
Okay.
So I wanted to ride through Virginia, so I chose the South team.
Yeah.
Well, I think the South team had all the assholes on it.
Okay.
Because the guys on the North team were, when I went to D.C. just on my own, because I flew home from Phoenix.
Yeah.
Partially to get treatment on my knee, because you can't see a physical therapist and a doctor if you're in a different city every day.
That's true. Yeah, that would get real difficult. Yeah, because you can't schedule an appointment in time. Yeah.
Right. So you'd have to start all over. And I said, well, I don't know what's wrong with my knee, and it hurts a lot, and I can't ride, and I've never had this problem before. So a lot of the reason was to get treatment, physical therapy, an MRI, whatever.
Yeah.
But part of it was also to get away from these guys that were giving me a hard time every day because they didn't understand why I couldn't ride. And they thought that I was either lying about how many miles I'd ridden. Yeah. Because I told them. Everybody asked, how many miles did you ride? And they seemed to like brag about the fact they hadn't ridden at all. Yeah. And then they didn't think that I had ridden as much as I said I had. Right. Because if I had ridden that much, then why would I be injured now? And if I did ride that much, then I can't be injured. So I'm either lying about how much I rode or I'm lying about my injury to get out of riding. Now, fast forward to last year. Yeah. And a couple of years ago, I've had a couple of the guys on the team reach out to me on Facebook. Okay. And they weren't the bullies per se, but they were aware of it and they apologized for not saying something and standing up for me because they realize now, with hindsight, being in their 40s, that was not cool. You have an injured teammate. Right. And guys are ridiculing him. Yeah. For not riding, and they didn't understand why I was trying to pedal with a high cadence. Yeah. Because that took pressure off my knee, and they said, well, if it hurts, you need to shift into your hardest gear and pedal really slowly. And so this is how much these guys.
Yeah, I don't know if that's right. Yeah.
No. It's a lot of torque on the knee.
Right. Yeah. That would be either.
So I started. I came home. Yeah. Physical therapy. Didn't really ride much because I graduated college that December. Okay. Pretty much hung the bike up for about 5 years. I mean, I had a bike and I bought a mountain bike in 2002 from Aegis, and I got a Gary Fisher. That was my first mountain bike since I'd sold the old one in 97.
Gary Fisher. Okay.
Yep. Gary Fisher Sugar. Full suspension. It was my first full suspension bike.
Did not know there was that.
So I had that for a few years, and I started. I didn't ride a ton. Okay. I mean, if I had Strava back then, we're talking about maybe a couple 100 miles a year, maybe. And I remember I had a hard time just riding from my house to Ashland without knee pain. Okay. So I started helping out with RVA Moore in 2005. Okay. And one of the guys on the trail crew, Wayne Goodman, he said, have you ever had a bike fit? And I said, no, I've never even heard of a bike fit. So he said, yeah, go to Ben at 3 Sports and get him to do a bike fit. So I went to Ben at 3 Sports, and he did a bike fit and told me to start riding. He said, your homework's to go out and ride but don't go out and do like 50 miles.
Yeah.
Just go out and ride like 10 miles, see how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
Slowly increase your mileage. Keep seeing how it feels. If we need to tweak it, we'll tweak it. So I start riding, and I made it up to Ashland and no knee pain. So I thought, well, that's something.
That's interesting. Yeah. Right.
So that probably took care of maybe 75% of the problem.
Okay.
I don't know whether my saddle, I don't remember if my saddle was too low or too high or...
It's magic. Just accept it. Yeah.
Right. So that helped a ton. So I started riding more. Started doing mountain bike races in 2005.
Okay. Yeah.
2006, I raced mountain bike. 2007, just exclusively mountain bike until 2007. I decided to get a cyclocross bike.
Okay.
And I started racing cyclocross in Virginia. Just Virginia, didn't go anywhere else. And
you got the bike with a plan to race.
Right.
Like I want to do cyclocross and let me get a bike to do it. Not cyclocross seems cool because cyclocross, I guess you would only get a cyclocross bike to race. Like you're not
it's hard to.
doing
You can't really do cyclocross without racing cyclocross. The whole like format.
Right.
I mean, you can if you go out to a park, you can ride in the grass and get off the bike and jump
stairs.
over.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Okay.
So I probably did maybe 8 races that year.
Okay.
It was a lot harder than I expected because it's full gas from the gun, and I did not have the fitness to hang. So I decided, well, I need to start doing more road riding so I can get some intervals in. And I was doing mostly mountain biking, but it's hard to do intervals
On a mountain bike.
mountain biking.
Yeah, on the terrain for mountain bikes. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Bike handling was there, but fitness was not. So I get a road bike. Plus, I'd had several crashes in 06 and 07.
Okay.
I'd sprained my ankle mountain biking. I'd landed on gone over the handlebars, was riding on Buttermilk Trail.
Okay.
And landed on my chest and tore some cartilage in my chest. So I was like, man, I'm getting beat up. Broke my finger. I had a run of bad luck mountain biking.
Or you were normally mountain biking.
I said that I need to road riding is a lot less likely to crash. So I need to do a little bit more of that.
Okay.
And a little bit less mountain biking because I keep getting hurt mountain biking. And I can't keep getting hurt.
Yeah.
At the time, I am 29, 30.
Okay.
So start riding more on the road. And that brings us to 2008.
Yeah. Yeah.
So on October 19th, 2008, I was in Madison County where I grew up. Took my Trek Madone with me to my parents' house for the weekend.
Yeah.
And went for a road ride on Sunday morning. It's going to be like a 30-mile loop. And I didn't finish the loop.
Yeah.
I got hit from behind by an elderly man.
Okay.
Who was 83. And he had glaucoma or macular degeneration, or maybe both. Yeah. Either way, he shouldn't have been driving.
Okay.
He told the state trooper that he never saw me. Hit me from behind at 45 miles an hour. I have no memory of this at all. Yeah. I remember the ride.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the accident. I don't remember maybe 5 minutes before the accident or 20 minutes. And I should say crash because Brantley would get on me for saying accident.
Not really.
So he didn't see me. It was a day much like today, bright, sunny, not a cloud in the sky.
Yeah.
I was wearing a red vest. I don't remember if I had a light on or not. I had a black helmet, black shorts, black arm warmers. Not super visible, but I don't know if it would have helped.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to think it would if there's things I do now that I do differently.
Yeah.
Because I dress like a circus clown when I go for a ride now. I'm just high-vis lights front and back. But I don't know if it would have helped then or not.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I went to UVA And the crazy thing about being injured like that severely, is your cortisol and adrenaline are through the roof.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel any pain. I remember the EMTs asking me what hurt, and I said nothing. My low back feels a little bit tight, but I don't have any pain. And I was joking with them.
Yeah.
Gare rode in the ambulance with me, my wife.
Yeah.
And she had come, that they had called my parents and told them that I'd been in a accident. I'm sure they said.
Yeah.
And my mom was at church, and my dad and Gare came to the crash site. And the thing is, my dad knew something was wrong because he heard me ask at least 5 times what happened. And they kept telling me that you were riding your bike and you were hit by a car. And then a minute later, I'd say, what happened? It wasn't recording.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were telling me, but it wasn't sticking. I only remember asking one time.
Okay.
So maybe that's the time it stuck. But I don't remember my dad or my wife being there when I asked.
Really? Okay.
So, and because I remember them telling me that they're on the way. The ambulance is on the way. But it was very surreal. It was almost like a dream, because I remember, like, my first memory is laying in the grass and looking up at the sky and not feeling an overwhelming urge to get up or move, just kind of laying there, not knowing where I was, not knowing what I was doing, kind of like in a dream, hearing the birds and seeing the trees, seeing the blue sky. And apparently, after I was hit, the woman that was behind the man that hit me, she told the trooper that she thought I was dead because I was limp. And so I'm thinking I was completely limp from the moment of impact, rolled off the roof of the van, from what she said, landed in the road, rolled into the ditch. Then she stops, runs to me.
Yeah.
She said I was not moving and I was not breathing, and she thought I was dead. At some point, I started making a low, raspy breathing. It's called agonal breathing.
Okay.
Anyone that's CPR and first aid certified, they've probably heard the term.
Okay.
And eventually I started breathing again on my own, but I think it's almost like my brain was like hitting the reboot button.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's taken me a long time to be able to talk about it without getting emotional.
Yeah.
So, didn't feel any pain.
Yeah.
They put me in the ambulance. Gare rides with me. When we get to UVA, it hit me.
Yeah.
It was, and I could feel it coming, like building quickly, like a tidal wave.
Yeah.
And I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
I felt like I couldn't breathe. So they started giving me morphine.
Is the pain kicking in?
And because the pain was kicking in.
Okay.
So that was a long day of lots of tests.
So what were your injuries?
L3 vertebrae was the worst. That was what's called a burst fracture.
Okay.
Which is a type of compression fracture. They said it was compressed by a third. So
okay, right.
It was basically the weak link, and L4 and 5 had some superficial fractures. They still hurt. I'm sure they contributed to the overall pain.
Okay.
But L3 was by far the worst. It was broken. It was smushed by a third. It was broken from top to bottom, front to back, a crack all the way through. And I had some broken ribs, and I had my right ear was almost ripped off because of the helmet straps.
Okay.
The canvas, or
I
guess the helmet got like
it just pulled on the ear.
Right, and the ear doesn't take much to pull a human ear off. So that luckily he was able to reattach that, and it doesn't look gory. But it's kind of funny. He was sewing that thing back on, and he had used Novocaine to numb it, and it took a while because it was a mess. And he said that it's bleeding a lot, so that's good. because it means it's got good blood flow.
Okay.
But towards the end of him sewing it back on, I said, I'm starting to feel everything because the Novocaine's wearing off. And he said, well, I can give you another dose or I can just power through. And I just told him, just go ahead and power through because I'm already dealing with a broken back. So it's...
feeling them sew your back on. Okay. All right.
And I had some... I found this out later. I had some nerve damage in my left leg.
Okay.
Hip and left calf. Mainly hip area and left calf. It felt like arthritic, an arthritic ache.
Okay.
But it's not arthritis. And then, of course, the concussion.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of issues with memory and attention. Okay. Since then, insomnia, anger.
Yeah.
I'm not as patient as I used to be. So, unfortunately, my family sees that. Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating because I know the person I was before.
Yeah. And
I know how I am now.
Yeah.
And it's not, they're not the same people.
Yeah.
That's what's scary about a brain injury.
Right.
Because a lot of times people will say when you have a concussion, well, thank God you weren't seriously injured. But the scary thing about a concussion is, like, if you break your arm, you're still Trey.
Right.
I'm still Nate.
Yeah.
You just put a cast on it and you heal up. But if you break your brain, it can have life-altering consequences and change your entire personality that you're not even the same person that you were before the injury.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't even know how to like adjust from that, to comment on that. But I'm glad you're able to talk about it, right? Because that's a lot, man.
And it's been tough. I mean, it happened in 2008, so that's 13 years plus. And I started seeing a psychologist at VCU last summer because I started to realize that I have PTSD.
Yeah.
I will get ready for a bike ride, and I've talked myself out of going. I almost did it today. I got dressed and ready to ride. Water bottles filled up, tires pumped up, every whole kit on, ready to go.
Yeah.
And I almost took everything off and stayed home and did a Zwift ride because I knew I can't die on Zwift. But it was too nice of a day, and I was like, I can't. I mean, my therapist tells me to like go out and do these rides because she wants to see if we're making progress.
Yeah.
And we're not. I've been doing this since August, and I'm still, and I've noticed the longer I go without doing an outdoor road ride, the harder it is. So if I go out and ride every day for a couple weeks on the road, it's a lot easier for me to go out and ride tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But if when I fired up my Garmin today, it said my last road ride was January 27th. Now I've ridden on Zwift and I've gone mountain biking. Yeah. But I haven't ridden on the road. Since January 27th. So it's been over a month. Yeah. And that's probably why it was so much harder for me to like actually get out the door and go for a ride.
Do you feel the same with groups?
No.
Okay.
No. And that's one of the things we've touched on because I was by myself when I got hit. So she thinks that's part of the reason I feel safer with a group because yes, you're more visible with more people, but there's not a whole lot, like if we go ride together, there's not a whole lot that you're going to be able to do to keep us from...
Right, yeah, getting hit, right, yeah. If somebody's going to plow through you, like there's two of you there, they didn't see you, yeah.
But I think a lot of it just goes back to me being alone that day.
Yeah.
And not having anybody with me. And
the concern over that, yeah.
And nobody wants to die alone. And not that I want anybody to die. Not that I want my friends to die with me, but it's very,
it's comforting.
It's very primal. Like you don't want to be alone when you die. And this guy could have easily, he didn't, but he could have easily hit me and kept going. Yeah. And there could have been no witness. Yeah. And I could have been left there. Yeah. And, obviously I lived. And even if he'd left me there, I would have lived. But the witness said that I tried to get up and walk around, and she told me to stop, lay down, don't move, which is good because I've heard stories of people that have paralyzed themselves because they didn't realize they had
broken something or
a spinal cord injury and got up and moved around, and then bones shifted and spinal cords were severed. So
I think of clearly not the same here. I think of, you haven't been out to ride in a while, not concerning the accident, right? Just in general, someone has been out to ride in a while. And yes, there is a little bit of a hurdle. Like, I haven't been out to ride, and a little hesitation to even go out and ride solo, right? And imagine that compounded by the experience that you've had well, Nate, if others haven't told you, I'm glad you're still here,
Thank you.
that you didn't decide to, do cartwheels right then at the injury site or the crash site. So yeah, group rides then.
I'm usually fine, but I'm picky about the groups that I ride with because normally I try to stick to people I know and trust. Just because I don't want to go down. I've had too many concussions.
Right.
That's why I, air quotes, retired from road racing because I crashed at RIR in 2017 and landed on my head, and I did mostly road racing from 2013 to 2017. Only did one race in 2017 and ended badly, but I've decided I can't keep smashing my brain against pavement. So
not a good idea.
Yeah, that concussion was probably most likely made worse because of the one I got
prior
in 2008. But I was symptomatic for 4 months with vertigo, motion sickness, dizziness, insomnia, trouble paying attention. I couldn't focus on it. I mean, I'd listened to entire podcasts twice and not realize I'd listened to the same podcast again a couple days after I just listened to it until I heard something at the end that was the signature line from that podcast that they hadn't said, and it was just like, oh, I've already heard this. Yeah. So I'm okay now, but
you can tell the difference.
Yeah, I don't. It takes me a long time to get through a book, and it is my memory is just terrible. So,
audiobooks are great. Just FYI. Audiobooks are great. Do you have a preference of books you like to read, by the way? We're changing subjects here.
Fiction's probably easier, but I like reading nonfiction because I like to learn.
It's useful.
So I've got like my own library of cycling training, coaching books that I've acquired over the years. And I've read a lot of them, but I've started a lot of them and didn't finish them and restarted them because I was like, I haven't made it anywhere in this book in 6 months, so I probably should just restart reading it again. It's frustrating.
If it helps any, which it may not, I recall reading a book. I can't remember the name. It's on one of the books that's like Quorum. Fantasy fiction is the genre that I will read occasionally. And I think it took me like 3.5 years to read it because I'd read a little bit and I'd put it down and wouldn't think about it. I think I moved and I read some more. You get through the story when you can.
Right.
Just get through it when you can. Because you still got this. It's a book. It's not like you got it from the library. You got to take it.
Right.
You got it.
That's why I actually buy a lot of books because I can't finish a book in 3 weeks or a month or even 3 months from a library. So,
yeah.
I envy those people that can sit down and read a book in a week, like Gare, my wife.
Yeah.
I can't read a book in a week. So sometimes I can. I have read a few books over the years that really held my attention and were really well written and were page turners, and I knocked them out in like 10 days.
Yeah.
But it's, oftentimes books about how to become a better cyclist aren't page turners. They're interesting and they're educational and they're informative, but they're not gripping and riveting, and like they don't make you want to like, oh, I can't wait to get home to start reading that book tonight.
Have you read any books that are like they're cycling related, but not like training related? Like it's somebody went on an adventure and like this was their cycling story.
Yeah, I like one of them I went through pretty easily was Tyler Hamilton's book. I can't remember I can't remember the name of it, but I think it's about their difficulties trying to evade the USA anti-doping agency and the World Anti-Doping Agency, and how they were using blood bags, and how he got sick from a blood bag because the doctors that are doing these blood transfusions, even though it's their own blood, you don't know. You go into a hotel room and you take out a pint of blood months before the Tour de France so you can put it back in during the Tour de France, but you don't know what that doctor does after he takes that blood out of your body. Does he just leave it in his hot car while he goes to play golf?
Where has this blood been?
Right. So Tyler Hamilton got really, really ill after he got one of those blood bags put back in.
Okay.
And he started running a fever, he was urinating black, which is problematic. Which is dead red blood cells. So he called his wife and thought he was going to die, and so that book was it might be called The Secret War, I think, but I'm not 100% certain. Anybody, I mean, if you just go on Amazon and look up Tyler Hamilton,
I may do that.
It'll pop up.
If anyone else is listening to this at some point in time, I'm looking for other books that are somebody had some kind of adventure of some kind, cycling related. So if you can send those recommendations, that would be appreciated. So yeah, anyway. Why do you keep riding?
So there's a quote that has popped up after my accident. I don't know where I saw it. Probably in a book, maybe online. And the quote is by a guy named John Shedd, who I don't know anything particular about him other than this quote. But he said, "A ship in harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for." And I do not want to let someone's irresponsible action take away from me something that I enjoy.
Okay.
So that's why I fight so hard to get it back. That's why I'm going through therapy. That's why I continue to ride. Because I don't want, just because this person, who I'm sure was a nice old man, just didn't want to give up his driver's license, and his family didn't know how to take it from him. He didn't think he was going to hit a cyclist that morning coming back from church. So, but ultimately, the fact that he continued to drive when he shouldn't have been is irresponsible. It's not malicious, but it's irresponsible.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Madison is a small town. My mom went to high school with this guy's kids. She works in the local library. They would come into the local library. They would see each other at the grocery store, and they have not spoken to her since that day. And she believes that is just guilt, because they I assume, and it's just an assumption, but I assume they knew their dad shouldn't have been driving any longer. They didn't know what to do, so they did nothing, and he almost killed me. And for those listening out there, you may not know this, but if you have a family member who is not willing to give up their driver's license and you don't think they should be driving anymore, if you request that DMV do a medical review on them and it comes from the family, DMV will not disclose who requested the medical review, because they don't want people to be put in an awkward spot.
Right, with the family member, yeah.
Right. So if you think your dad shouldn't be driving anymore, you can request DMV do a medical review. You don't have to take his license. if he doesn't pass their vision test or their driving test or their written test or whatever test they give him, they'll take his license away, and then he's got to call an Uber from now on.
Yeah. And I guess that's also part of, can't even speak to that, but in at some point as we take care of our loved ones, you know, and saying like, let me help you with that kind of thing, you know, like, let me take care of that for you. Like, you've done enough. Like, let me help you. Or maybe you shouldn't be doing it. Like, it's probably not the best thing for you to do, kind of thing. And of course, I think we all have to try to do that at some point for our elders. But thank you for mentioning that, the medical review by DMV, and they don't ask who asked for the medical review. Hopefully no one has to do that, right?
Right.
But that's great that there's because that means that they didn't get a chance to either way to speak to the family member and address that with the family member themselves. But at least DMV, someone somewhere was like, we need to put something in place so that, like, you know, we can prevent people who shouldn't be driving physically, or not prepared to drive, not able to drive, shouldn't be driving, have some way to be inspected. It's not the right word.
Well, you know, you think about it. If you're not even allowed to get a driver's license until you're 16, and you have to pass all these tests. But after you get your driver's license, does anybody go ride with the instructor at DMV periodically to prove that you still know how to drive a car safely?
No.
I mean, I wear glasses, but when was the last time I had a vision test? I can't even I go to the eye doctor every year, but the DMV hasn't verified that.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. Vision could have deteriorated. Yeah, they don't.
So, I mean, I have taken vision tests at DMV, but it's been a minute. I mean,
of things that they're trying to regulate, I think it's like lower on the totem poles. Like, you've got the license, you're good.
But I think they should, I mean, this is a whole nother topic we can get into another time, but, you know, they should really be more regular testing for people as they get older. And it's not discriminatory, because things go downhill when you get older. And if you can see when you're 70, fine. Yeah. If you can see when you're 75, fine. But maybe at a certain age, just like when you're 16, you can't drive before you're 16. Yeah. But maybe at a certain age, maybe 70, 65, I don't know. Yeah. You should just have to take a regular vision test every 5 years with DMV, just to verify that you don't have glaucoma, you don't have macular degeneration, you aren't colorblind, you whatever. And I'm sure people that are colorblind can drive, but you have to know the sequence of the traffic lights too. Yeah. So that you know where red is on that.
Right. Yeah. In that sequence. That seems fair. To say at some point, just some kind of some elderly age, that people are, there's just some testing. Like, we just want to make sure that you're safe to be out on the road. Like,
and it could be something as simple as their eye doctor sends something to DMV. They don't have to maybe take the test at DMV, but they could just get a letter from their eye doctor saying, you have to send this letter from your eye doctor every 5 years, every 3 years, whatever. Right. Verifying that you still can see. Because it
seems like a low bar.
I'm trying to be fair, and I'm trying not to, because hopefully I live to be 70, 75, 80, 90, whatever, and still have great health. But, you know, if you can't see, you shouldn't drive. I mean, it's just like...
Yeah. It seems mine says needs to wear glasses. Glasses? It says glass, because I don't think it says contacts. And I wear my contacts. I do not risk it at all. Like, you know, it's just not worth it.
I mean, I can see without my contacts, but it's very blurry. Right. I can see objects and I can see moving objects, but I can't see fine detail. And I might miss a cyclist if I didn't have my contacts in, especially if one's wearing dark clothing with no lights. Right. And it's at dusk. So
small adjustments, hopefully. But you do still ride.
Yes.
Do still ride. If you want to go on group ride sometime, let me know.
Definitely.
What do you take with you on your rides?
Usually, always my phone.
Okay. Solid.
Water.
Okay.
A snack.
Okay.
Because I also have hypoglycemia.
Okay.
Low blood sugar.
Oh, I know that. Okay. All right.
I remember Aaron saying that when our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I took a Picky bar with me today, but I didn't eat it.
A what?
Picky bar. It's an energy bar. I can't find them locally, so I'm a member of their Picky Club.
Wait, is it really Picky as in P-I-C-K?
P-I-C-K-Y. They've got granola, they've got oatmeal, they've got pancake mix. Might be pickybar.com, but it's so if you join their Picky Club and you subscribe, you can get they send you a monthly subscription box, but if you subscribe to a certain amount, you get 10% off. If you subscribe to a certain amount, you get 20% off. If you subscribe to a certain amount, you get 30% off. So, and it's not a crazy amount. I get like $60 worth of stuff like every 2 months. Okay. And I get a box of bars and some like pancake mix and granola and you can change it out too. You can so I've got a bunch of bags of granola because I got tired of it for a while, didn't eat it, and they just kept sending it, and so now I'm going to change it up and get something different. Else, yeah. So,
speaking of subscriptions, I subscribed to Harry's. Had subscribed to Harry's, but like my hair does not grow that fast. So like they would send me. I think I was like every like 2 months, 3 months, or something like that. They'd send me a kit. With the shaving cream and the blades. But I don't shave that often. And nor do I feel like I need to shave that often. So like they were sending me a kit, it was like 2 years I subscribed to them. So I've got like 6 boxes of like shaving cream because I just don't shave that often.
I've got a bunch too. If I didn't shave, I shave my face, but I shave my legs too, so I use
benefits. Yeah,
I use it for that too. Also, I did have Dollar Shave Club, but I found that Harry's is a little bit better product. So
Harry's is now in the store.
Yeah.
Walmart, Target. I can't remember one of
Target
those.
Target has some other stuff.
Okay. But yeah, and that's the only thing I've ever subscribed to. And yeah, I've got like 6 boxes in the
aside from like Netflix and all
that. Well, like a goods that they're going to deliver. Yes, correct. Yeah, Netflix will never go.
Everything's going to a subscription service.
Yeah, I will happily pay for Netflix for like the next 10 years.
So you're asking, what do I carry with me?
Yeah, correct.
Well, on my phone, I have the Road ID app.
Okay.
Which I don't think a lot of people use. Now I have the Strava. I subscribe to the Strava Premium, and they have the beacon. So I automatically, when I start a ride, my wife gets the Strava beacon. But I also send an e-crumb, is what Road ID calls it, and it's a same thing. Okay. But the thing I like about the Road ID, and they just moved to a subscription model, which annoys me. But I guess they got to make their money, and I think it's like $30 for a year. But I'm not sure. Might be 10. I haven't subscribed. I'm just doing the trial as of today. But it has a stationary alert. So if you stop moving for 5 minutes, it will notify
whoever your contact is,
your emergency contacts. Now you have to be careful because I rode to a Bryant Park race once.
And you stopped. And
I stopped and left my bag because I just had one of the like shoulder like bag, like just one strap and just and I'd left my bag with Wendy at registration and I started doing the race and I left my bag there and she wondered why it was like pinging, but she didn't know what it was and she didn't want to go in my bag. Yeah. But it was notifying all my emergency contacts. And you could send up to 5 people that I had not moved for 5 minutes. But they started calling Gare and she looked me up on Find My iPhone and saw that I was at the race, so she knew I was there. Okay. And she deduced that I had probably just left my phone at registration and not turned it off. So I gave a couple people some mild heart attacks that day.
You know, it is good to have those services. I've also I've been because I have Garmin also has one.
Live track.
Yeah, the live tracking, which doesn't have to be used for emergency services. Like you can just watch someone else do their race live, kind of watch the stats. I got in an accident with Jesus Christ, John Beckenstein, Simon Moon, and Lucille Marie. I think that's her last name. Good friend Lucille. Anyway, we were on the bridge, which they've since repaired. There's a bridge on the Capitol Trail that is approaching like pretty close to Jamestown. If you've been out there, there's a bridge, and the bridge is pretty like low over the water. It's like a marshland kind of area, and it's like a mile out. Either way, we got in an accident where we tried to cross the bridge. The bridge was a little wet. It's so low and like watery. It's like it was slimy. John was in the front. He slowed down. And when he slowed down, he just went straight to the left. He just fell over. Simon was closely behind him, and he slowed down. He also could not stand up, and so he fell over. Then Lucille was behind, and we all fell over. We were all like within a foot of each other. But both John and Lucille have the live tracking feature on with their John's wife and Lucille's son and daughter both got a notification that she had an accident kind of thing. Well, she'd had.
Oh, so it'll detect an incident.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, it detected an incident in that case. So, so the features are great, but yes, it does mean that there's going to be the occasion where like there's a false alarm and someone gets a heart attack because they're like, no, did someone get injured?
Right.
Better they go off when you weren't expecting them to or didn't want them to than they don't go off when you do have an accident.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know if you know about Denise Garande. I think that's how you say her name. She is the runner that was hit up in Hanover a few years ago.
Okay.
And a cyclist found her, but it was a hit and run driver. And she was out for a run and was wearing a bright orange vest. And her husband is Ben Todorico, who is a former Richmond police officer, but he left after this happened.
Yeah.
Partially, I guess, because of her health problems now. But she was left there in that field for over an hour.
Really?
And she had a serious brain injury, and her shoulder, the guy hit her so hard. So you've got, I think it's 4 nerves that come off the spinal cord into the shoulder, the brachial plexus area, and it ripped all but one of those nerves out of the spinal cord. So her right arm is paralyzed, and she oftentimes has it in a sling. And it's atrophied. And she's still like, Ben, I think he has a degree in exercise science of some kind. So he has transitioned to doing like personal training, I think. And he's been helping her, and he's been doing stuff like blood flow restriction training, which you don't have to use as much weight. And you can do a deep dive on all that on your own, but it's blood flow restriction training. So I follow them on Instagram, and he's posting videos of her doing exercises and stuff. But she can move that arm, but it's not a fully functional arm anymore. But the point to that is that he knew like that something was wrong because she didn't come back from her run when he expected her to. So he went out. I think he was getting his boys ready. They were small kids to go drive around and look for, because he hadn't seen her. She hadn't come home, and she was not answering the phone. And he was starting to get worried. And I think as he was pulling out of the driveway, Hanover County pulled into his driveway, and he just said, "Where is she?"
Oh, that sucks.
We're going to scare everybody away from riding and running on the road after this podcast.
But that's the reality we face. And Chloe, you've been in some horrific accidents, right? Racing and just normal riding. And I've met people who don't ride that often who've mentioned fears about riding, right? Because like they'll hear a news story about like the accident you had, right? So-and-so, a cyclist was, got hit by a car or something like that. And I feel I have to remind people like, well, you didn't hear the story about the other 100,000 people who went out on a ride and did not get injured at all. Like, yes, an accident is terrible, but like, it doesn't mean it's like everyone's going to get hit kind of thing.
Right.
It's shitty thing that happens. But it doesn't mean that every person who goes out and ride is going to get hit. You want to do things to prevent it. Bright clothing, wear a helmet. Not be squirrely while riding. Don't run through the things you shouldn't be doing. But either way, I feel I have to mention that to people who are talking about, they want to ride, but they have concerns, which are legit, but just like to scale it a little bit.
Yeah.
Not everyone's getting hit.
I try to focus on this is my like logical brain thinking through things. I try to focus on all the tens of thousands of miles I've ridden since the accident, crash.
Yeah.
And all of the tens of thousands of miles I rode before.
Mm-hmm.
I've only been hit once.
Mm-hmm.
And now once was enough. I don't want to ever get hit again.
Yeah.
But, who knows? I have no clue because I don't have everything on Strava.
Yeah.
But I have no clue how many miles I've ridden in my life. I have no clue how many rides I've been on.
Yeah.
It's in the thousands.
Yeah.
And it was just one ride.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had just left the house 5 minutes later or 5 minutes earlier
mm-hmm.
or taken a different route or just skipped that one ride, that one day,
right,
things would be completely different.
Things would be different.
Hopefully I would not still be going out in all black kit like I used to do. And I still see people ride on roads that I ride on regularly, and they're wearing all black. And I saw a guy, I forget where I saw it. I think it was the Heart of Virginia Century. He was parked near me as I was getting dressed, and he had a black bike, black everything. It was all murdered out black.
Mm-hmm.
Black helmet,
mm-hmm.
black jersey, black shorts, black gloves, black socks, black shoes.
Mm-hmm.
He had a Garmin Varia radar.
Yeah.
But everything was black.
Yeah.
And I thought, that might look cool, but you're basically invisible.
Yeah. And we don't all think about, I need to be visible. I need to be visible. I should be visible out on the road. Like I want to give everyone the chance to see me, that needs to see me kind of thing. So you wear the kit that seems cool to you, right?
To you, but all the motorists think we're dorks anyway. So
that's true, but I'm not trying to impress other motorists,
right?
I'm trying to impress the other cyclists. At least, trying is a word. So you're right, which I hope there's more cooler, colorful kits. I will say I have. Because I would wear all black. I started really enjoying my. You've seen me wear this thing, but it's basically all black. But I have one sleeve. Mm-hmm. One sleeve is white, mm-hmm. and then I went all in. I was, I'm going to make the whole sleeve white. So I have one arm sleeve that was white on the thing. But then I did think more about what, I'm less concerned about how good I look on the bike. Not saying I don't look great on the bike. But I was less concerned about how does my kit kind of look kind of thing. So I now have a yellow jersey, a high-vis yellow jersey, which I wear more because it's comfortable, but it's a double down because it's high-vis. Mm-hmm. And it's full long sleeve from Pearl Izumi. Mm-hmm. A white helmet, wear the radar, have the radar on the bike kind of thing. So I do think about being visible more. So now my winter jacket is also a nice yellow high-vis jacket kind of thing. But what is the thing that has to happen for us to think about that? I need to make sure that I'm safe out on this ride. I'm doing all the things I can, because as you could do all the things you can, and still get fucking hit because somebody can't see. So, the conversation has been serious, which is fine.
A little deep,
right? It's fine. That's how it played out. Some things have happened. You've gotten on a ride. You still think about things when you go ride, and that's fine. Who taught you how to ride a bike?
I guess my dad.
Yeah.
I probably learned a little bit later than some kids.
Okay.
Definitely later than my own kids. Probably 10-ish, I guess. I remember we had a hill. So I lived in one house until I was 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then I lived in another house until I went to college at 19. But the first house had tons of land. I guess it was probably 5 acres maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So when we had this big sloping downhill from the house, because the house sat at the top of a hill.
Yeah.
And I remember riding down that thing and my dad like pushing me down the hill, but I also ate it one time and the bike flipped and landed on my head and I was not wearing a helmet because it was 1987-ish, 1986. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And went and got stitches. And the funny thing is the doctor that put the stitches in my head was the father of my friend Nathan, who went mountain biking with me, who I had not met at this point.
Time, yeah.
And I remember him telling me, he realized what my name was, and he said, "Oh, I have a son named Nathan too."
Yeah.
And that was my first knowledge of this guy existing.
Yeah.
And we went to college together, and we were
nice.
like good friends, and still stay in touch. And he doesn't ride anymore, but it's that's probably my earliest memory of riding a bike. And I do remember when we moved into the second house, it was next door to a bank.
Yeah.
And when the bank would close, we would go next door and ride through the drive-through and do laps around the bank because there was no traffic, and we'd just take our bikes next door and we'd ride laps around the bank. Yeah. And so that was cool. Also, the Tour de Pont, or maybe it was the Tour de Trump, came through Madison in the late
Tour de Trump
80s.
God, I think it was the Tour de Trump.
And I remember coming out of my middle school and sitting on the hill and watching them go by, and they were gone in a couple seconds. Like we sat out there for 30, 40 minutes waiting for them, and then they were gone. But it was really cool because I think we did it 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And they came right through Madison, right through town. And that was probably 88, 89.
And it was the Tour de Trump, which then changed to Tour de Pont. Thank God. Just, different time frame, different perspective, but just, either way, let's not get too deep into that. So the earliest memories of bike rides, your kids ride.
Yes.
Okay. How do you feel about them riding? In general?
Not real keen on them riding on the road, but they do the Henrico Nika team. Okay. So they have not raced because Emily doesn't really want to race. She's my oldest. She'll be 12 next month.
The Henrico Nika, that's a mountain biking?
Yes.
Off-road? Okay.
And Isabel is 9. She'll be 10 in October. And she really loves riding. Okay. And she's not, I wouldn't say she's a superstar on the team or anything, but she's probably one of the youngest, if not the youngest on the team, because she's doing well. Normally they don't allow kids her age to come out, but because she's been coming out for a couple of years, because I'm a coach, and she can keep up with the youngest group. Yeah. So, and she can hold her own. I mean, she's not slow. I mean, she's probably better than most 9-year-olds on a bike, but no offense to any listeners whose kids ride, but I'm not saying that she's not a superstar, but most kids ride like around their yard. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they hang up their bike when they get a driver's license and never touch it again.
Yeah.
If not before. So yeah, they ride.
Okay.
So they like it.
Okay. Gare, rides.
Yes.
Which happened first? Was she riding before you met her or riding after?
She started riding after me. After we started dating.
Okay.
So
I'm always interested in like how the couple and cycling thing pans out. Now, did she bring up like the join your riding, or were you like?
I don't remember because I think
like
her
mutual
road bike is a Le Mans.
Okay.
And it's a steel road bike.
Okay.
And it's probably close to 20 years old.
Okay.
She bought it. I bought it for her before we got married, I think. Mm-hmm. And she has ridden it outside on the road. Mm-hmm. But she won't ride by herself anymore because she had a bad experience in Hanover one day with some guys in a pickup truck offering to give her a lift and telling her to get in the truck, and they wouldn't leave her alone, and they followed her for a ways, and she was by herself. And I don't know if she had a phone on her then because this is like the early 2000s. So she would go for a group ride, but she will never ride by herself again. And I can't say that I blame her.
Yeah, that's upsetting.
But she's gotten into Zwift, and she likes doing that, and she's done some of your rides, and she's done some of the races with you all. And we just got her a new mountain bike.
Okay.
I ordered it in June of last year, and it came around Thanksgiving. So it's nothing crazy, but it's a hardtail, and it's fits her, and we have it.
Okay.
Supply chain issues.
Yeah.
Aside, but we've gone for a couple 3 rides.
Okay.
And we've taken the kids with us.
Okay.
And
I think I've seen some of these. Yeah.
Yeah, and she'll ride with the older 2, and that is they give her a run for her money.
Really? Okay.
So
nice.
And usually I'll hang with Alex because she's only 5 and she's still like
just 5, just learning.
I wasn't mountain biking at 5, so
they've got a head start on you.
Yeah, and Isabel was riding a bike at 3 without training wheels.
Really? Wow. Yeah, they've got a head start on you, man. They've got a head start. And you're a coach. How long have you been a coach?
I started in 2014, I think. Yes.
What was it? Go ahead.
I just took. I don't remember what the impetus was for that. I just decided I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I've always had this uncanny ability to remember, even though my memory's terrible, remember anatomy and physiology and
okay.
An example was my mom has a bad rotator cuff, and they're talking about how she's going to have complete shoulder replacement.
Okay.
In at least a year or so.
Okay.
She's going to try and put it off till she retires. But I was texting her about it, and I just rattled off the 4 rotator cuff muscles off the top of my head without looking them up. And the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, subscapularis, and teres minor. It's for whatever reason, these things stick. And if we're watching Jeopardy and they have a question, like a category on anatomy, I'll get every single one of them right. So I guess I missed my calling. Should have been a doctor or something.
And that's a conversation we have later, but I think there's a way to use that somehow. I don't know where exactly, but I feel some energy should be used in figuring out how can that skill be used, because that's a skill. That's a thing. That's a thing you are interested in, and you retain that information without having a lot of effort. And if you can make a living off that, why not? Either way, or use that in some other way.
Maybe in a past life I was a professor of anatomy. I don't know.
Who knows? Favorite kit? You can get 2 answers if so. You can get 2 answers if you. Yeah.
I usually only wear 2. I wear either my Peaks Coaching Group kit, which is by Pactimo. I think I said that right.
That's the one that's high vis and blue.
Yeah, high vis green and blue. There's a white and blue, but I always wear the green and blue because it's a little more visible.
It is much more visible. Yeah.
And I've got several pieces. I've got short sleeve jersey, long sleeve jerseys, jackets, vests, knee warmers. I've got the whole kit.
Okay.
And then if I don't wear that, I will wear my full spectrum racing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Team kit. And usually I'll wear that if I go for a team ride. So like today I rode by myself, I wore the Peaks Coaching Group kit. If I rode with my teammates and did a full spectrum team ride, I would wear the full spectrum kit.
Is one more comfortable than the other?
They're comparable. I mean, I don't think any of them are like pajamas, but
okay.
I did have an issue with my full spectrum skin suit racing cross this past year. I've never had this problem before.
Okay.
But where the stitching, and I've worn the same skin suit in dozens of races and never had this issue, but in several races this year, it like rubbed the inside of my leg raw where the stitching in the on the chamois pad is.
Oh.
And I mean some pads don't really have like it's
really
it's not like the stitching's not visible.
Raised. Yeah.
And I don't know what that is all about. So it was unpleasant enough that it made me slow down in a race because and I kept pulling and tugging on my pant leg trying to like adjust it. And when you're in a cyclocross race, that's not really like you can't really do it because I felt like stopping.
Yeah.
It was so bothersome.
Oh, okay. Right. You don't have time to, because it's a more involved race.
Right.
Okay. I was wearing the Rabbit kit, and loved it. Loved the Rabbit kit, the white and black one. I don't know
who makes that?
Starlight.
Starlight
was who was making
that's who
the
makes
kit.
our full spectrum kit.
Was wearing the kit and loved it for the outdoors. I wear the kit, arm sleeves, shorts, not bibs, and leg sleeves. Leg sleeves is what I wear to them, fully covered. Great kit, riding it outdoors, awesome. Then I started riding Zwift more often. And then I can say this because it's whatever. They're stitching in the front, right? It's stitching like right down the middle, down the crotch area, right? And it's a bit raised. And so for whatever reason, when I was riding on Zwift, particularly on the longer rides, like if it was like 20 miles or more, which most people don't try to do, got a little rub. Got a little rub in the area you don't want to have a rub. And I was like, that's weird. Like it's not when I'm riding outdoors, but like the Zwift, which I think I just like was in a stationary position. And thankfully the upside of that though is that I was like, okay, this is bothersome. Like this clearly caused me an issue when I ride indoors. The upside of that though is that I started looking around for new shorts to wear and got found Gore. Actually, I ended up first looking at like some indoor specific kits from not competitive cyclists, Castelli and Wahoo. I even had I think Wahoo. I think I even got one of the Wahoo as a kid or something. Either way, ended up selling on Gore, and they had a really good wood set that like the stitching's in just the right place. But either way, I wear Gore bibs now, Gore wear bibs, and they do a fantastic job. So I thought I'd ask about the comfort level of kits, and if there's one that seemed more so than the other, because comfort is important, as you knew when you're cyclocross.
I do have a fair amount of Pearl Zumi stuff too, which I will wear, and that I like that. It's it maybe is marginally more comfortable than the others.
Okay.
But they're just black shorts, so there's no color scheme on them, and I try to at least match my teammates or match my coaching kit, and the Pactimo stuff's not bad. Like I've never had any issues with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm in between sizes. Like small might be a little bit too small.
Yeah.
Medium's a little bit too big.
Too much. Okay.
I need a medium, I guess.
God, I haven't heard medium in a long time. Most challenging ride. And if you have two that are comparable, like you can give one.
That I've ever done or like regularly do, or
that's a good question. That you've ever done.
Probably the wintergreen ascent.
Okay. This is
the time trial.
The time trial. Okay.
Yeah. I did it once.
Okay.
And I always.
Wintergreen's got some climbing, right?
It's up to the top of the mountain, the ski resort.
Okay.
So they haven't done it in the last couple of years, probably because of COVID.
Yeah.
Although I feel like you could do time trials pretty safely, especially now. So it starts at the bottom near Devil's Backbone, I think, Brewing.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes all the way to the top, and it's like 6+ miles. Some of the places are 20+%.
Okay.
Not like sustained, but some of the sections are like 20%. It's 3,000 feet of climbing in 6 miles, I think. Anyway, I did it once. I used to be, before my crash and back injuries, I used to be a fairly proficient climber. So I always wanted to do the wintergreen climb because I thought I could do well. Well, I didn't do so well. I did it in under an hour,
okay,
which is not great. But the whole ride, I was dealing with back pain and knee pain. And it's hard to lay down the watts when your knee's hurting and your back's hurting.
That would be problematic.
So I finished it.
Yeah.
I would like another crack at it because I think I could do better.
Okay.
Because that was in 2015, I believe. So that was probably even though it was only 6 miles.
Okay.
But it was like I was going hard.
Yeah.
The whole time trying to do it as quick as possible. And an hour is not impressive for me. I mean, I guess anybody that makes it to the top of that thing should be.
You can, yes, you can, how to put this? You can feel bad that you didn't do that, you didn't put in the effort that you did, but hopefully still feel good that you completed it.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't have to walk. So.
Yeah, you got it done, not how you were expecting to, but you got it done and you can go back.
If they ever have it again.
If they have it again, yes.
Hopefully they will. It's been
Did they close the roads for that?
No, that's one of the sketchy things about it. So you're dealing with cars all the way up, and they don't want you to ride down. You have to take a shuttle down.
Yeah, I can see that. Because, the bombing downhill, either way. Yeah, bombing downhill can be sketchy. Particularly that kind of
But, I mean, I've been riding long enough. I'm like, I kind of like, don't tell me what I can and cannot do. I almost feel like I'm just going to hang out up here at the top till everybody goes home, and then I'm going to ride my bike to the bottom. I earned it.
I'm riding down this hill. I feel that way only when I've gone up, like, it's clearly not the same Alp to Zwift. If I've gone up, like, I'm getting the miles to go back down. Either way. Is your kit, do you go grocery shopping in your kit?
No.
I mean, like you get, like, I'm not phrasing that the right way. Do you like, I got to run an errand, go in the store with the kit on? You'd like immediately go home with it?
No.
Okay.
Because normally, like if I go somewhere where I'm going to, like say I drove somewhere to ride.
Yep.
I would take a sweatshirt or sweatpants or
you take
I would change. Plus, I want to change out of my shorts as soon as possible to prevent saddle sores and whatnot. So people really shouldn't be hanging out in their shorts after a ride for any amount of time.
Yeah.
Take a towel with you, wrap it around your waist, drop your shorts, put on some.
Yeah. Change out of them.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So, but I've gone in coffee shops before. I've gone into Montana Gold.
Yeah.
After Yawn at Dawn, and then and usually when I do Yawn at Dawn, I ride to the ride and then ride home. So
yeah, that seems fine with the Yawn at Dawn, which will start. I think the first week of April is when we start up again. So.
Yeah, I won't be able to do it until school lets out.
Right. Busy schedule. I think you had a couple Fridays off at the time. The times you've been able to be doing.
Yeah, I have. Well, I'm off every Friday in the summer. So.
Okay. Right.
And the kids don't have to go to school.
Right. Okay. Well, there's been some serious stuff talked about, but I imagine that people will enjoy, they will gain something, I would say, from you telling the story of you being in an accident, and your history of cycling, and continue to ride. I expect you will continue to ride. What's something you would tell a new rider? You meet someone, they're like, I'm thinking about getting into riding. Like, what's something that you'd want to share with a new person before I try to wrap this all kind of thing?
Be patient. The gains will come. Don't do too much too soon. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we want to bite off more than we can chew. And it's funny you ask that because I occasionally will get a client through Peaks Coaching Group that's new. I've got a guy that I just he just signed up this week, and he's only been riding since August.
Oh, he's new.
Yeah. And he wants to do a 110 mile ride on April 23rd. But I think he's starting to feel like the time crunch, and he's not getting as fast as he would like, as soon as he would like. So he's hired me to coach him. And, the thing I will say while I have this platform is because there's a big fallacy in coaching, in cycling and running, and probably triathlon, that your coach needs to be fast to be a good coach.
Okay.
I've had people tell me that they wouldn't take advice from me until I could beat them in a race. And they were somewhat snarky. And this was before I was a coach, but, I still retained a lot of the knowledge, and I was reading Joe Friel's books, and it was before I'd had any concussions. Yeah. So when I tried to give a friend advice once about tapering and periodization, and this was probably 2007. Yeah. 2006. He somewhat snarkily said, well, when you beat me in a race, I'll take advice from you. And I've heard other people say, not to me, but through the grapevine, that they would never hire a coach unless the coach was a higher racing category than them. But if you think about it, do you think Bill Belichick can throw a football farther and harder than Tom Brady? Do you think he ever could? Nope. Do you think that Chris Carmichael could have beaten Lance Armstrong up Alpe d'Huez in the early 2000s? Doping aside. So it's like, why do you think your cycling coach needs to be fast? Yeah. Michael Jordan's never coached basketball. So the point to this is that a lot of times when you have someone who's gifted and talented and is a really fast cyclist, it's hard for them to relate to someone who is new to cycling and can't take both hands off the handlebars to take a water bottle out of the water bottle cage. They have to stop, put both feet on the ground, take the water bottle out and take a sip. Because I've coached people like that. And you have to be able to relate to that, even though, I can't imagine not being able to do it, but I can empathize with somebody who is that new to it, that they don't feel that stable. I mean, I can ride a bike. I could probably ride here to Ashland. If I didn't have to stop and use the brakes, I could probably ride to Ashland without touching the handlebars and back. Nice. So it's not, I mean, it's helpful for like taking a vest off or grabbing food out of your pocket or drinking water or like cleaning your glasses off if they get a bug on them or whatever. So, without rambling too much, I think you need to be able to like relate to someone who's not, someone has not been riding for as long as I have,
right,
since the early 90s, and be able to break it down into terms they can understand,
mm-hmm.
and not make it too sciencey and too over their head. Because I talk to my clients every week.
Yeah.
And it depends on the person. It depends on what coaching package they're paying for. Yeah. Sometimes it's once a month. Sometimes it's twice a month. Sometimes it's every week. Mm-hmm. But the great thing is I learn from them too. Mm-hmm. I'm coaching this guy who's in his 70s in Kentucky, and every time I talk to him, I learn something new because he's been riding for a long time.
Yeah.
Also, so that's a really cool aspect to coaching. He's told me things that I didn't know.
Well, 70, I would expect that, he's got some experience. You know? I think we all have to think about like being able to relate to people. Not all of us are at the same spot with our cycling experience kind of thing. Particularly with coaching, I would hope that someone would have that skill to be able to scale the knowledge. Okay, this person's super new, or this person has a huge breadth of history kind of thing, and scale that information about like how they should train or just their experience riding to fit into how they can understand it, and it can be fruitful for them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But not everyone has that skill of scaling. Not everyone has that skill to say, these people don't have the same experience as I do. They don't have the same breadth of knowledge that I do. And so they hit them with the full water hose of information without saying, they just need a trickle right now. So I'm glad you're doing that, Well, Nate, Vincent,
I don't think anybody's ever used that as my, unless my mom used it as the full,
really,
Nathan Vincent Ayers. You're in trouble now.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming and sharing the time.
Sure.
Your story, all the things. May have you come back to talk about some other stuff. Who knows? But I appreciate you setting the time aside to come talk, man. I know you're a busy man. So,
very.
Thank you.
You're welcome anytime.